It is the honor of my career to be before you today to discuss one of the most transformational pieces of emergency management and resilience legislation since the creation of FEMA. I join my partners here, the emergency management and resilience community, in our gratefulness for the continued bipartisan leadership and commitment demonstrated by this entire committee to reduce the impacts, costs, and losses of disasters across the country. Today, it's my privilege to serve as the Executive Director of the Build Strong Coalition and to testify here before you today on their behalf. The Build Strong Coalition, formed in 2011 to respond to an increasing number of severe disasters, is made up of an incredibly diverse group of members representing firefighters, emergency responders, emergency managers, insurers, engineers, architects, contractors, and manufacturers, as well as consumer organizations, code specialists, and many others that are committed to building a more disaster-resilient nation. The Build Strong Coalition has been a partner with this committee in your work to investigate the causes of and devise solutions to the rising costs of disasters in the United States since you initiated this conversation in 2013, and we appreciated the opportunity to inform several key provisions of the Disaster Recovery Reform Act. I will now refer to this as DURA. The many provisions of DURA work intricately together to provide incentives to address some of the country's policies and laws that continue to leave lives, homes, and communities quite vulnerable. The compelling arguments for these policy changes are grounded in overwhelming science and evidence. Better land use, modern science applied to home construction, and increased mitigation measures can dramatically reduce the devastation brought on by these disasters. Most recently, the National Institute for Building Sciences released a report and reported adopting model building codes can save $11 for every $1 invested. DURA clarifies that the development, implementation, and enforcement of modern building codes are eligible uses under FEMA's mitigation programs. It also incentivizes states to adopt model building codes by providing recovery funds to replace and restore damaged facilities to the latest codes and standards. As we've discussed today, the true game changer for disaster recovery policy in this country is the creation of the National Public Infrastructure Pre-Disaster Mitigation Fund, which is an additional set-aside of 6% disaster spending for the purposes of greater investment in mitigation before a disaster. DURA gives FEMA the opportunity funding for cost-effective, risk-reducing pre-disaster mitigation projects. With FEMA's leadership, the nationwide pre-disaster grant program will impact both public infrastructure and individual preparedness by increasing resilience through state-sponsored safe home grants.
Thank you. Mr. Noel?